Panther people, what up? Didn't think we were going to be doing it, but let's talk college quarterbacks. What's going on? You're watching Panthers Post to Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining. Hey, I know it's only week 7, but the season's basically a wrap. And it's not just me saying it. Statistically speaking, the Panthers are not going to make the playoffs, and there is a very good chance they get the first overall pick in this upcoming draft at Kansas City. According to Football Outsiders, the Panthers have an over 42% chance of picking first overall in this draft. Football Outsiders also says if the Panthers don't get the first overall pick, there's an over 85% chance they're picking in the top 5. So then you have your choice really still of all the quarterbacks, going to have to pick a quarterback. Every person in their right mind says that they have to pick a quarterback in this draft. They have no choice. They've been avoiding it like the plague. You know, they didn't pick up Justin Fields. They didn't pick up Justin Herbert. They didn't pick up Mac Jones. I'll be honest with you. It's going to get more in-depth as the season goes on. The more tape I watch, the more research I do. So full disclosure, I am a journalist by trade. In the daytime, that is what I do. I crunch numbers, I look things up, I learn about people. I do profiles on people, good or bad. And so I'm going to delve deeper into these players, not just like what they're like on the field, but also who they are as people. Are they nice to the janitors when they're in high school? Did they, play multiple sports? We've seen that happen. Guys playing baseball and football and basketball, and you see it translate on the field. Just look at Kyler Murray, just look at Patrick Mahomes. And so I'm going to delve deep into those aspects of the players as well. First and foremost, let's talk about the guy who I am the most intrigued by just the film that he puts out there, and specifically the highlights, because they are like not just highlights, they're like wow lights. And that's Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson. Compared to all the other quarterbacks in this draft, now Anthony could go back to school for next year. Whatever he does on the field, whether it's tucking the ball in and running it or gunning it, it's just a missile out of his arm. Everything he does in terms of the highlights, all right, it just explodes off the screen. You see it and you're just like, James, like, we already know Cam Newton didn't really get much time at Florida before he then transferred to junior college and then Auburn. But you see him, and sometimes I feel like Cam Newton was playing the game at the wrong time, because now quarterbacks are really, dual threat, triple threat quarterbacks. If he stayed in Florida and somehow cut off a couple years in his life, he would be Anthony Richardson. He is a gigantic man. He's a mountain of a man. Anthony Richardson, standing at 6'4", 232 pounds, so about 2 inches shorter than Cam, but girthy, 232 pounds. Cam was about 260, went vegan, went 240-ish. But the guy has a rocket arm. He's got solid footwork from what I'm seeing, and when he wants to run, it's insane. Like, it looks like he's not running quickly. Like his feet aren't having huge strides, kind of like a gazelle type situation, like a Colin Kaepernick, but maybe it just looks that way because he's so gigantic. If he was actually a smaller person, it would look like he's motoring Usain Bolt style. But if they can have an offensive-minded coach linked up with Anthony Richardson, he could have the development like a Josh Allen, maybe add a spark just because he's such a unicorn in terms of his skill set in his first year, but then really fine-tune his skills, because Josh Allen in his first couple years, he wasn't lasering in, precise passes. He just wasn't doing it. He was a physical freak. But by his third, fourth year, he was really developing into most likely the MVP of this year, depending how the rest of the Bills season goes. That's the way I could see that marriage work out, because a rookie head coach is not going to be rushed to win, especially with a young roster that maybe is off with some veterans like a Shaq Thompson, like a Christian McCaffrey. You're going to give them some time to develop along with their quarterback. Quarterback is a guy who beat the Alabama Crimson Tide in Knoxville. Everyone's smoking those cigars, throwing goalposts into the river, and that is redshirt senior Hendon Hooker. Physically, jack guy, narrow shoulders, kind of reminds me of Teddy Bridgewater a little bit. Not saying he's got the skill set of Teddy Bridgewater. He's not a game manager or worse. He's definitely a very good passer. Same thing as I mentioned before with Anthony Richardson. He's got the arm. He's got the laser focus as well, more so than Anthony Richardson, but he can also run. And he definitely feels like more of that galloping gazelle type stride when he does run. He's definitely quicker than Anthony Richardson. He's not carrying the weight that he does, and you can tell that he can cut the corner on a QB option type play and then run into the end zone with that. So I think he has all those options as well. He is going to be an older rookie. So Hendon Hooker is 24 years old. So he's going to be an older rookie out there. Now, whether that means, should you be concerned whether he's kind of developed his style. He's going to be a tough nut to crack in terms of trying to change his ways. If there's something that a new offensive-minded head coach, which is going to be my focus heading into this conversation, it's going to be tough to break some bad habits. Are they going to be able to do that with Hendon Hooker, who's played, his full extent of college? He's 24 years old. Is he going to be able to be coachable in that sense? This is just an outsider thinking out loud type thing. Will he be able to change some bad habits? Right now, it doesn't seem like he has many. But you can see right now just the intangibles are there. He played against the best team in the country in the last couple of years. He went up toe-to-toe with them in a high-scoring affair. It was a back-and-forth boxing match type situation, and he came out on top. And that shows a lot of guts. It shows a lot of moxie, and it shows a lot of, mental fortitude as well, that you can go up against basically an NFL defense with the Alabama Crimson Tide, and then you can do your thing. I forget how many touchdowns he threw that game, all to the same guy. It was like 4 or 5. Ridiculous. Will Levis. So he's playing at the University of Kentucky, also a big cat. He is standing at 6'3", 232 pounds. So just about an inch shorter, or about the same size actually as Anthony Richardson, playing in the SEC. Obviously that he's going to be playing in hostile away environments. I don't know much about Kentucky Wildcat football attendance, but it can't be that intense. They're not expected to win national championships like the guys at Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee. I mean, they had to be moving up a little bit. Florida, not as much. Kind of the same expectations there, but it's still Florida. They got the name. They're expected to be good every single year. And he's also not dealing with the same amount of talent pool as the guys that I mentioned before. So you kind of have to put that into effect when you are talking about Will Levis, who's a big guy. He might be big because he puts mayonnaise in his coffee. You kind of have to look at that the talent that he's working with, kind of like the way you looked at Josh Allen or even Lamar Jackson when he was at Maryland. They don't have top-tier skill talent around them. I do believe Kentucky has a pretty good running back. I think he leads the SEC in rushing. But when it comes to actually passing the ball to NFL caliber receivers, he doesn't have that. Let's be honest. A senior, he is obviously going to play in the Senior Bowl. The Panthers, with their new head coach, could be coaching in that game, and they're definitely going to be there. 100% they're going to be there. It's going to be very intriguing to see how he rolls with other senior wide receivers who are more NFL pro ready. And so if he can really shine, kind of like the Justin Herberts did, like a Dak Prescott did, like Russell Wilson did during their Senior Bowl games, maybe that elevates him to maybe, top 2, top quarterback overall, because we've seen the other guys play with NFL talent. How does this guy play with genuine NFL talent on the outside? And if he shines in that game, it's going to be a huge measuring stick heading into the draft. Let's talk about the guy who I've been mentioning without actually saying his name. And he is easily the shortest guy on this list. But what he lacks in physical stature, he has in leaps and bounds in other intangibles and tangibles. And that is Alabama starting quarterback Bryce Young. Now, he is 6 foot, 196. From what I'm reading on the internet, and we all know everything on Twitter is real, he's like 5'10". Let's be real. I'm 5'11". If I'm taller than your starting quarterback, freaks me out a little bit. That freaks me out. We've all seen the Tua Tagovailoa hit. The way he gets ragdolled, the way Kyler Murray gets ragdolled, one-handed by defensive linemen, you don't see that with guys like Big Ben, Cam Newton, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. You just don't see, even with Lamar Jackson, who's not the biggest guy. He's not the tallest guy, but he's just yoked. But guys like Bryce Young, he's got like soft looking arms, fluid. It looks like he does a lot of yoga, like TRX. I'm not seeing any videos of him, kind of like what we saw with Jalen Hurts when he was in Oklahoma, squatting 600 pounds. Like, I'm not seeing videos of that of Bryce Young. I see Bryce Young doing some yoga, TRX, some medicine balls. Like, his arms and everything just looks like a baby's arms. Like, it doesn't look like there's a vein popping out anywhere. The guy is cool as a cucumber in the pocket. I just mentioned the game in Knoxville. Just in a back and forth, heavy hitter, bang, bang, bang fight. Like, he kept up. Didn't score as many touchdowns passing wise as Hendon Hooker, but the way he moves in the pocket, it's just like, it's effortless. And yes, you could say that he's got an NFL style offensive line, but it's really easy to see him on an NFL roster because Alabama has NFL caliber wide receivers, running backs. I love their running back at Alabama. But I think if you were to plop him, just for example, with the Carolina Panthers, the offensive line is good. It's good now. We can say that out loud. I feel like he can drop in there, and he has NFL caliber wide receivers in DJ Moore, in Christian McCaffrey, if he's still here, Terrace Marshall, if he actually gets an opportunity, which Steve Wilkes says he will now. you could see him having some success there because he's having success with an NFL caliber roster with the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I'll say this, when he went to high school, Mater Day, by the way, over in California, same school as Matt Barkley, Matt Leinart, maybe not the best alumni, but, they had good college careers. But he played basketball as well. And he even said in the local paper in Tuscaloosa, if he was a little bit taller, he'd be a baller. And so you can tell that. He kind of has that point guard mentality, distribute the ball. He's not selfish. Another thing about him that you can't measure is he's been there before. He's a winner. He comes from a winning program in Alabama. A lot of expectations. Unlike a guy like Will Levis who played at Kentucky, Florida right now, they've had history, but they haven't been good, really. Not challenging for a national title for a couple of years now. Same thing with Tennessee. It's only recent. And so he's won the national championship. He's won the Heisman. Kind of like a Cam Newton guy who's come in here to a team that isn't winning. That's why you're picking first overall. And just bringing that mentality. Maybe not blah, blah, blahing it. You're not rah-rahing it. But everyone's seen you play on the national stage and those island games. And they know this guy knows what he's doing. And, I'm going to say it out loud. Like playing in Knoxville on a Saturday night, it's definitely more raucous than playing at Cincinnati, at Baltimore, at Miami. Like, they're not game day atmosphere equals to those spots in the SEC in those big games because everyone wants to beat Alabama. And so everyone brings their A game in terms of crowd noise, and he can handle it. We've seen him handle it at the highest level in college football. And so I think when he gets to the NFL, I think it's going to be a pretty quick transition for him, and that makes me a little bit more calm about his lack of stature. Another thing about him, Nick Saban talked about this before he even took a snap with the starters in Tuscaloosa, and that's the fact that because of name, image, and likeness, kid was making $1 million in sponsorships before he took a snap. So he can handle it. He's made that money. In the past, when players were making money under the table, maybe might not be $1 million. It could be a couple tattoos here and there, maybe a free car. But how about a couple $1 million, right? They get to the pros, they lose their minds. And you're seeing what the good starting quarterback pay is. It's $500 million. By the time he gets to that point, it could be $600 million you're handing to Bryce Young. Is he going to be able to handle it? I think so. He's already making $1 million when he was in his early 20s. So I could see him transitioning to the NFL financially, getting the signing bonus, getting those sponsorships, and not losing his cool. Guys like Will Levis freak me out. The whole, trying to be viral off the field, putting mayo in my coffee. You can see if you give that guy $600 million, he's going to do something stupid. But I think Bryce Young could be the great CEO for a franchise like the Panthers, who's run by a multi-billionaire who is a CEO himself, and he wants to see someone that's like him. And so I could see that happen. And, yeah. I think I'm turning on Bryce a little bit. All right, the final guy I'm talking about, C.J. Stroud, out of The Ohio State University, 6'3", 218 pounds. He doesn't have a Josh Allen type arm, but he's just got a mix of everything. But I'll say this out loud. He's not exciting. He's not exciting to watch. Like, he's efficient. And he does when you watch the throws at different angles, you're like, ooh, snap, that's very nice. He throws with great anticipation. He could throw at every point in the field. I don't think he's going to knock the air out of you if he does hit you right in the numbers. But he's just kind of boring. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. If you're a franchise like the Carolina Panthers and they want some excitement, kind of the kind of excitement that a Cam Newton brought, that someone I think Anthony Richardson could bring on the field, a little bit like Bryce Young could bring on the field, just being a magician in the pocket. I'm not sensing that with CJ Stroud, but it's almost like he's like that responsible car. I'm not going to get a G-Wagon. It's flashy. It's exciting to watch, especially if you put like neon green plastic all over it. I'm just going to get, a Jeep Cherokee or a Range Rover. I'm going to get a nice range. It looks nice, but it's not going to wow you. It's just going to get the job done. After seeing such horrible quarterback play in the last couple of years since Cam Newton, I think that he kind of gives some consistency, and you just know what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy who can hit the open receiver, throw with anticipation, run it if he has to. And I think that would kind of ease the nerves of the Panther fan base, because right now our nerves are on fire. I'm watching guys like Anthony Richardson fires me up. He had this gigantic run last week, and he just went apeshit, and I went apeshit. I went crazy. I'm like, this guy jacks me up. CJ Stroud doesn't jack me up, but winning jacks me up more than anything. So if he offers that more than the other guys, sure. That's my overview of these quarterbacks. I'm going to be watching a whole lot more college football. Hopefully you guys too, so we can have a dialogue on who we like the most. And yeah, let me know who you like in the comments below. And then we're going to give a reaction to the Panthers maybe making it tough for Tampa Bay on Sunday. See you then.